My aunt worked as a prostitute. After being detained and returning home, she adamantly refused to continue. My cousin wailed and complained, "If you stop working, where will I get the money for branded clothes? Without those, my friends will laugh at me." My uncle pushed my aunt down, slapping her repeatedly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you really think those clients came for *you? Without my medicine, you're nothing. Don't be so ungrateful." My aunt sobbed uncontrollably, forced to open her doors to clients once more. But that very night, she died in her bed in a grotesque position. My cousin, afraid of losing face, didn't even bother to return for the burial. Less than a month later, my uncle married a new wife, a beautiful, alluring, and gentle woman. Yet I often saw her secretly eating bones still covered in blood and flesh. Her eyes glowed with an eerie green light in the dark, and she had a black birthmark on her hip. The new aunt's name was Lin Ru, as gentle as her name suggested. She was completely different from my late Aunt Niu, who had dark skin and was plump. Despite that, wealthy or influential clients would seek out Aunt Niu's house every day without fail. At first, my cousin and I had no idea what Aunt Niu did. We only noticed she always slept until noon and always carried an indescribably fishy odor. My uncle often scolded her for not bathing. In our small town, countless strangers in luxury cars came daily to find Aunt Niu. These men were young and old, handsome and ugly. When night fell, they would sneak to her door, covering their faces before quietly leaving. When rumors spread, my cousin was transferred to the best high school in the city, thanks to Aunt Niu asking her clients for help. By then, my cousin actually knew what Aunt Niu did. There was a time when my aunt cried desperately, saying she didn't want to continue. Their family's financial situation had improved, and she wanted a normal job. But my uncle beat her, and my cousin scolded her. "If you don't sell yourself, where will I get money for branded clothes? How will Dad drive a luxury car to pick me up? Without these things, my friends will just mock me." My cousin wept as if the sky was falling. "Do you really think those clients come because of *you? Without my medicine, you're nothing. Stop deluding yourself." Uncle Yimes sneered, his eyes filled with contempt as he looked at my aunt. "You only have this little bit of value. Be obedient, and you can still enjoy a prosperous life. Don't get greedy." They never seemed to truly consider her family, spending the money she earned while despising her dirty way of earning it. Dad brought medicine. Seeing my aunt crying, his expression changed unpredictably. When he got home, he couldn't control himself, slamming the door and beating my mother with a stick. The sound of the stick hitting flesh had become a chillingly familiar sound in that house. "If you refuse to make the medicine, why should I have to rely on them, constantly watching their faces? What good did marrying you do, besides giving birth to a useless daughter?" My mother bit her lip silent, even her suppressed sobs tinged with shattered quietness. But after saying, "useless daughter," Dad suddenly froze, his eyes fixed on me, filled with deep thought. When my grandfather passed away, he left behind a formula called Yang pills, specifically for male infertility. Regardless of age, taking the pills cured the illness, even growing new tissue where none existed. But what truly made Yang pills famous was the case of Sun Zhengshan, the richest man of that year. He had an affair with a married woman, and her husband discovered them, promptly castrating him. At the time, this was a shocking scandal that rocked the entire city. The Sun family had only one lineage, and Sun Zhengshan's fate meant it was effectively cut off. Old Mr. Sun frantically sought doctors and declared that whoever could cure his son would be the Sun family's benefactor. At that time, my family was so poor we didn't even have rice to cook. Seeing his 2 children on the verge of starvation, my grandfather sat silently in the courtyard all night, puffing on his pipe. The next morning, he braved the frost to knock on the Sun family's door. When he returned, he used the money from the Sun family to buy rice and meat. My grandmother ate her fill and had enough milk to feed my father and youngest uncle. She closed her eyes and nodded, tears rolling down her face, agreeing to the plan my grandfather devised to support the family. My grandfather locked himself away for 3 days and nights. When he emerged, his entire body reeked of a strong, fishy smell, his eyes filled with a murderous intent as he once again sneaked into the Sun household in the dark. This time, he returned with a hunched young man trailing behind him. The door closed, and my grandmother lay on the bed with her eyes tightly shut, tears soaking into her hair. My grandfather sat vigil by the door, taking deep drags from his tobacco pipe, constantly alert. Near dawn, the hunched young man who had entered now walked out straight-backed and proud. He tossed a bag of money to my grandfather, whistled, and vanished into the morning mist. Not long after, the Sun family grandly held a wedding with a demure and gentle new bride. In less than a year, she gave birth to a son for the Sun family. The amazed crowd watched with dropped jaws. They had assumed Sun Zhengshan married only to deceive the public, never expecting he could have children. The child was his spitting image, silencing those who gossiped about him borrowing a lineage. The curious began to investigate which master the Sun family had met, otherwise, who could regrow what Sun Zhengshan had lost. Even the legendary physician Hua Chuo couldn't do it. How could this be done without meeting an immortal? But secrets couldn't be kept forever. No matter how secretive the Sun family was, my grandfather's reputation spread far and wide. From then on, people came to my grandfather ceaselessly in the dead of night, and they were all influential figures. My grandfather charged very high fees. Commoners couldn't afford his services. Those who grumbled about the price immediately fell silent and stopped bargaining once they learned the healing process and method. The key to the medicine lay with my grandmother. How many men in this world could be so magnanimous as to offer their wife to another for treatment, especially for such an unspeakable condition? My grandfather was bedridden for a long time before he passed away. My father and youngest uncle outwardly showed filial piety, taking meticulous care of him. Every day they stayed by his bed, making tea, pouring water, changing clothes, cleaning. There was nothing they wouldn't do diligently. But my experienced grandfather had seen through their petty greed. They were simply afraid that if one of them was absent, he would reveal the secret of yin-yang pills to the other. Therefore, it wasn't until he was on his deathbed that my grandfather revealed where the secret was hidden. But to ensure harmony between the brothers, he divided the formula into two parts. My father and youngest uncle each kept half. It was meant to be fair, but my mother refused to sacrifice unconditionally like my youngest aunt, so my father gradually lost his say in financial matters. His share became increasingly smaller, and he gradually had to rely on my youngest uncle's handouts. My father's face grew gloomier each day. Every time he returned from my uncle's house, he would beat and scold my mother to vent his anger. "Why won't you be the test subject? Why can't you be understanding like my sister-in-law?" Such words made me increasingly ashamed, unable to face anyone. My mother, however, always endured silently, not daring to say much, only wishing for me to study hard, leave this house, and take her out of this sea of suffering. But as I grew older, Dad's gaze increasingly fell upon me. "Pa, don't you want to wear branded clothes and ride in luxury cars like your cousin?" My father, half drunk, sat beside my study desk. "I hear her new boyfriend is from a wealthy family too." I bit my pen, frustrated by the unsolved problem. "Dad, I'll study hard and earn a lot of money later so you and Mom can also live comfortably," I answered seriously. Unexpectedly, my father's expression changed, and he swept my books and notebooks to the floor. "You scoundrel, you and your mother are both good-for-nothings. There's a shortcut right in front of you. Why insist on taking a path as hard as climbing to heaven?" Slaps rained down on my face before I could react. Seeing my father's madness, my heart filled with hatred. My teacher had clearly said, "With your grades, getting into a top university in the country is no problem." She encouraged me, saying that if I tried, my future would be bright. But why didn't my father believe I could do it? He had become accustomed to shortcuts from a young age, losing the ability to strive for himself. Watching my father angrily slam the door and leave, I silently picked up my books from the floor, trying to piece them back together, and then returned to my desk. My eyes were dry. My tears had long since run out. These days wouldn't just be today, they would continue until I passed the university entrance exams and left this house. Therefore, I would endure. I would get used to it. The new aunt was very gentle. Every day, she would wait on my way to school to give me milk and bread. But each time I remembered my late aunt, an indescribable bitter hatred surged in my heart. More importantly, perhaps it was because I noticed that lately, my father stayed at my youngest uncle's house longer and longer. Furthermore, most of that time was not for scheduled medicine-making. Often, youngest uncle wasn't even home. I hated my father, that was one thing, but witnessing him intimately involved with the new aunt was another. In short, I disliked this woman, but my cousin seemed to adore her, calling her Mom all day. They were so close that I almost thought they were actual mother and daughter. When Aunt Niu was alive, my cousin's eyes were always filled with disgust when she looked at her. My cousin's affection for the new aunt made me suddenly understand something one evening after school. Uncle Yime sat in front of the door again, as usual, cautiously looking around at the scattered luxury cars parked nearby. The new aunt also began to take on the Miu family's business. Old wine in a new bottle, still the same old profession. Miu Pa, tonight, come with Dad to youngest uncle's house. You should broaden your horizons. My father suddenly appeared in the dark, his eyes as fierce as a wolf's. Without a word, he dragged me straight to youngest uncle's house. At the door, the stench of depravity and decay suffocated me. My father pushed the door open and threw me inside. The new aunt gracefully reclined on the bed, propping her chin, looking at me. Her clothes were so revealing they covered nothing. Miu Pa, don't you think Auntie is beautiful? Her voice was strangely enchanting. Too bad I wasn't one of the men queuing outside. Auntie, you're very beautiful, I replied objectively. So, do you like Aunt Niu or me? She looked at me expectantly. I like Aunt Niu. This was also the truth. I answered calmly, without a hint of emotion. Oh, really? She smiled brightly, as if I had just said I liked her. Seeing my bewildered look, she got off the bed and patted my head. Actually, Auntie and Aunt Niu were also very close, the new aunt said with a nostalgic air. Tonight, you'll see clearly how much pain Aunt Niu endured all those years. Suddenly, her expression changed, and she violently yanked my hair. I was forced to arch backward. She leaned down and bit my neck hard. Just as I thought I was about to bleed, she let go, pushing me to the ground. In her eyes was a suppressed, furious hatred and murderous intent. I scrambled back into the corner of the room, terrified. For a moment, I truly thought she wanted to kill me. Huddled, my entire body trembled uncontrollably. A man in sportswear, wearing a baseball cap and a mask, entered. He glanced at me warily, his eyes silently asking, "Why is there another person here?" "She's new. She's here to observe and learn tonight. If you don't like it, the door's behind you." The new aunt casually took off her clothes and lay on the bed, her face full of indifference. The man's face darkened. Finally, he pretended not to see me and walked towards the new aunt. I bowed my head and covered my ears, neither looking nor listening, but those pungent sounds still seeped into my mind. I don't know how long passed before the new aunt's cold voice echoed. "Miu Pa, lift your head, open your eyes wide, and look carefully. This is the scene you can't miss." I didn't want to open my eyes. The new aunt staggered over, slapped me twice, forcing my eyes open. I saw her begin a chilling ritual. She slit her wrist, and fresh blood immediately filled a white porcelain bowl. Then, somehow, she took a piece of the man's body and a piece of her own rib, mixing them into the bowl of blood. The object grew grotesquely before my eyes. Finally, she placed it back into the man. Under my astonished gaze, his wound closed as if nothing had happened. The man lay on the bed with his eyes closed, seemingly feeling no pain, even showing an expression of pleasure. Conversely, the new aunt's face was pale, her entire body seemingly drained of blood. She leaned on the table, took a green pill from a drawer, and swallowed it with difficulty. This was the Yan-Yang pill made by my father and Uncle Yime. After swallowing it, the blood from her wound quickly stopped flowing, the wound visibly healed, and new bone gradually grew where her rib had broken. The man woke up, looking refreshed and satisfied, and left. I looked at the face revealed when his mask accidentally slipped down, sinking into thought. This looked like the celebrity my cousin often showed off on her social media feed. Not just similar, but exactly the same. I was completely certain. He looked at me with venomous eyes. "Don't you dare reveal this, or I'll make sure your whole family gets dissected. Who do you think this place belongs to, daring to act so arrogantly? I'll make what just healed shrink back to its original state." The new aunt waved her hand threateningly, her face fierce. The man, both frightened and resentful, glared at us, then left angrily, no longer displaying his earlier joy and excitement. What kind of rubbish dares to put on airs in front of me? The new aunt glared after him, her eyes wide. That night the new aunt broke 7 ribs. By morning, she was too exhausted to stand. She told me to leave, saying she would come to see me after she woke up. "Regarding Aunt Niu's death, I need to talk to you. She is in a lot of pain right now." This statement made me lose focus all morning. The teacher threw chalk at me several times, expressing his displeasure. Didn't Aunt Niu die? What does "in pain" now mean? Enduring until noon dismissal, I asked my teacher for sick leave and rushed to the new aunt's place. But when I arrived, I bumped into my father, pulling up his pants, emerging from Auntie's room with a satisfied look. Seeing me, he flinched, then angrily slapped me. "Damn it, are you still following me? All your studies have gone to the dogs." I was so disoriented from the slap. "Miu Zhiqiang, aren't you going to buy me ribs anymore?" The new aunt leaned against the door, looking annoyed. I'm going. This brat is getting more and more annoying lately. My father kicked me again before he left. Watching him smile obsequiously at the new aunt, I only felt bitterness and a strange amusement. This was probably something my mother would never have in her entire life. Mew-pa, your timid look is exactly like Aunt Niu's. The new aunt glanced at me with disgust. That's why Aunt Niu died so tragically. Didn't Aunt Niu die of illness? I asked, bewildered. That day, Auntie called someone to save her, but she refused to open the door. The new aunt recounted, her eyes red. I clearly saw her from the window. She stabbed herself repeatedly with a knife, her neck, heart, stomach. Each wound was deep. Such despair. I stood frozen, my mind blank. In my memory, Aunt Niu was always sad, but she would smile happily whenever she saw me, even secretly giving me money for snacks. Had she really ended her life in such a brutal way? That day, youngest uncle scolded her, calling her a slut, saying it was bad luck to marry such a foolish woman like her, and that she was caught by the police for prostitution, disgracing the family. The new aunt said, gritting her teeth, her face distorted with anger. Then she video called your cousin, but that girl kept refusing and even texted insults, telling her how shameful it was to have such a mother, telling her to just die. Why don't you just die already? I frowned, opening my mouth but not knowing what to say. I had also heard these words before. It was because of this that my cousin and I had drifted apart over the years. Once close childhood friends, we were now strangers. Leaving the new aunt's house, I felt dizzy and developed a high fever. My father returned late, drunk. Seeing my mother and me, he cursed incessantly. When he smashed a beer bottle over my mother's head, the thought of murder surged within me, then was extinguished. If I had committed sins in a previous life, having a father like this was my retribution in this one. At 1 a.m., I secretly left the house, took the address the new aunt had given me, and hailed a taxi to the Ping and Feng Shui shop. At first, I worried whether the shop owner would be closed this late at night. But when I arrived, I realized my worry was unnecessary. A young woman with a ponytail, a few years older than me, was sitting in front of the shop, setting up a hot pot. The red oil broth was bubbling furiously, filled with tender lamb. But she was eating and chatting cheerfully with an empty chair next to her, continuously putting food into an empty bowl. Not seeing me arrive, she turned to the empty chair and said, "She's here." I looked around. The moon above was bright and round, the space eerily silent. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what felt wrong. Chilling winds blew through, making me shiver as I walked closer. "Are you Jai-Fanian? Come sit here. I've been waiting for you for several nights." The young woman gestured for me to join. As soon as I sat down, a pair of chopsticks suddenly flew towards me. Startled, I fell to the ground with a thump. What is this? I was on the verge of tears. Jai-Fanian scoffed, turned, took a gourd-shaped bottle and dripped a few drops of a foul-smelling liquid onto my eyes. "This is my exclusive secret technique. It can temporarily let you see a different world." The young woman blinked, smiling slyly. I turned my head towards the empty chair, and my pupils immediately dilated in terror. Aunt Niu was sitting there, calmly smiling at me, and even raised her hand to pour me a glass of water. I breathed a sigh of relief. If it's Auntie's ghost, it doesn't seem so scary. What could be more joyful in this world than reuniting with a departed loved one? Mew-pa, Auntie is very happy you came. Aunt Niu looked at me with a hint of shyness. "Auntie, the new aunt said only you can help Auntie. What should I do?" Jai-Fanian looked at me with satisfaction. "This matter involves your father, your youngest uncle, and your cousin. If it means doing bad things to them, would you agree?" "Absolutely, even killing them is fine," I said seriously. "Everyone in this world has to do something. When I was 13, it was Aunt Niu who protected me. That night, I avoided being molested by Uncle Yaim. I will never forget the sight of Auntie being beaten and rolling on the ground, still clinging tightly to Uncle Yaim's leg, giving me a chance to flee frantically. For me, at this moment, happiness meant everyone getting to live, including my mother, Aunt Niu, and even that somewhat fierce-looking new aunt. I knew she was also on our side. Just as dawn broke, I stepped out of the taxi and saw a crowd of people surrounding the alley entrance from afar. Police tape cordoned off youngest uncle's house, separating it from the crowd, leaving no escape. As I squeezed through, my mother pulled me aside. "Where have you been all night?" I was worried sick. "Did you call the police, Mom?" I asked hesitantly. "Such a big commotion, it can't be simple." "Your father is dead," Mom said nonchalantly. Before I could compose myself, she delivered another shock. "Youngest uncle is also dead." "What happened?" My mind reeled. Everything felt out of control. Mom lowered her voice. Last night, youngest uncle caught your father and the new aunt in bed. She spoke even more softly. Your father and youngest uncle fought until morning, and then youngest uncle called the police. I anxiously searched the crowd for the new aunt. Our plan wasn't supposed to be like this. As relatives of the deceased, we were taken to the police station to give statements and met the new aunt there. She looked at me in a panic. Auntie can't remember what happened last night. I remember going to bed very early. When I woke up, I saw both of them lying stiff on the floor. The new aunt was interrogated repeatedly. There were too many suspicious points in the case. Due to the family's unsavory profession, there were almost no surveillance cameras around, and it was a secluded alley. The case reached a dead end. My cousin appeared at dusk. Her first act was to ask the police to retrieve youngest uncle's bank card from the house. She feigned grief awkwardly, but even if she could fool others, she couldn't fool me, the one who grew up with her. Mew Pa, I'm an orphan now, boo-hoo. She leaned on my shoulder, sobbing, head bowed, but no tears fell. Yet I smelled the familiar pungent odor of decay on her. After the police left, my cousin quickly stood up, wiping her face with an annoyed expression. I saw black-emitting ghosts swirling around her, their black bone structure so dense I couldn't clearly see their faces. Their sheer number sent shivers down my spine. Sister, have you encountered anything unclean lately? I grabbed her hand, asking with both worry and curiosity. Unclean things? Aren't you two precisely those? She glanced contemptuously at my mother and me. When Jifanian arrived, my cousin was about to drive away in a newly acquired luxury car. Mew Yang, right? Do you know where your father and those other people are? Jifanian's intense gaze made my cousin turn around. What are you talking about? My father and everyone else were murdered last night. My cousin replied calmly, but I knew she was lying. Perhaps she didn't even realize that since childhood, her habit when lying was to unconsciously fidget with her clothes. Oh, really? You really don't know? You only have one chance to tell the truth, Jifanian gently coaxed. You crazy woman, my cousin glared, got into the car and prepared to leave. Before 12 a.m. tonight, if you change your mind, tell Mew Pa to bring you to me. Jifanian and I watched my cousin and the huge swarm of vengeful spirits behind her drive away. Your cousin is even more malicious than I thought. Jifanian patted my shoulder. Returning home, my mother and I looked at each other blankly, reading all sorts of confused emotions on each other's faces. Father and youngest uncle were dead. We should have been happy, but no one seemed truly joyful. The distinct sound of dripping water suddenly echoed. I got up and went to the bathroom, intending to tightly close the faucet, but saw blood flooding the floor, flowing not water but bright red liquid from the faucet. In a panic, I twisted the knob, but then the water pipe suddenly exploded. The pipe seemed to have been severed like a main artery, blood gushed out incessantly. It was everywhere on the floor, on the walls, and soon reached my thighs. My mother ran over, screaming hysterically, but I saw Dad clinging to her back, his eyes coldly staring at me, a grotesque and cruel smile on his face. His neck seemed to have been severed, loosely swaying, only half remaining. Mom frantically twisted the door handle, but couldn't open it even with all her strength. Mew Pa, you demon from hell, if you die in place of your father, I will spare your wretched mother. Dad's eyes were fixed on me. All right, I quickly replied. You let my mother go and we'll talk outside. He was stunned for a moment that I agreed so quickly. He looked deeply at me and the blood in the room immediately vanished. The door also opened. Pa, who are you talking to? Don't scare Mom. My mother was frightened and uneasy. After comforting my mother, I secretly texted Jifanian. The fish has taken the bait. The other party immediately replied with an okay emoji. Only then did I feel relieved enough to open the door and step outside. As soon as I stepped out, a furious gale swept over me. In the inky black mist, I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, but I could vaguely discern shadowy figures lurking around. Mew Pa. It was my father's voice, but why did it sound so different? Whispers echoed around me. She's still alive. If we eat her flesh, we won't be able to reincarnate anymore. Then kill her. Killing her won't do either. We'll be completely annihilated. The noisy arguments surprisingly made me less afraid. Even though I didn't know who they were, why did they feel somewhat endearing? Suddenly, a pair of cold hands squeezed my neck. I was violently thrown to the ground. The Mew family is all dying. I opened my eyes wide and saw a dog-headed, human-bodied monster in front of me. Its hairy arm was clamped tightly around me. Surrounding us were more dog-headed, human-bodied creatures, staring coldly at me, waiting for me to be choked to death before rushing in together. But she's never done anything wrong. Another white dog-headed monster squatted down and looked at me. Have you forgotten how painful it was when her father skinned and butchered you? The dog chaining my neck growled in fury. All right. The white dog stood up regretfully, its eyes filled with compassion. My vision blurred and the air in my chest grew increasingly scarce. Are you proud of bullying a girl? If you have the guts, why don't you bring back the real butcher? It was Lin Ru, the new aunt's voice. She was completely different. She had a human head and a dog's body, standing upright, much smaller in stature, but her presence was commanding. The other dog people retreated in fear. The hand choking my neck suddenly loosened. Like a dying fish, I gasped for every scarce breath. In a hazy state, I suddenly heard faint chanting near my ear, like a divine spell or a scripture. I recognized it as Jai Fanian's voice. The dense black mist around me gradually thinned under the brilliant golden light emanating from the front. All the dog people looked hopefully towards the golden light until the black mist completely dissipated. I saw Jai Fanian sitting cross-legged on the ground, a large gourd hovering above her head, emitting a gentle and warm golden light. The new aunt, Lin Ru, looked at the golden light, tears welling in her eyes, and turned to the other dog people. Finally, we've waited for this day. If we don't personally witness the Niu family descend into hell, we will definitely not reincarnate. The dog people clamored, full of dissatisfaction. Jai Fanian opened her eyes, her gaze filled with compassion. Just watch. Since I want to guide you into reincarnation, of course, your wishes must first be fulfilled. The dog people gradually quieted down, staring intently at Jai Fanian. I seemed to understand something. The truth was within reach, but I was afraid to face it. Those hairy half-human, half-dog monsters continued to look at me with cold eyes, silently seething with indignation and hatred. The truth was, their deaths were connected to the Niu family. Niu Pa, first, we need to find your father and youngest uncle. Didn't they die? Are we going to find their souls? I already had a premonition but still needed a definite answer. No, they're not truly dead. Jai Fanian irritably rubbed her temples. The crux of the problem lies with your cousin. I took out my phone to check. My cousin still hadn't contacted me. Jai Fanian gestured, telling me not to rush, to wait a little longer. She seemed very confident, but I remained uneasy. I anxiously watched my phone. At 11:55, my cousin video called. I quickly answered. "Papa, save me. I might be dying." The screen was dark, and my cousin's voice was very faint, as if she was speaking with her mouth covered. "If I really die, please make sure to cremate my body. I beg you, Papa," my cousin screamed, and the call was cut off. Before the screen went completely black, I managed to catch a glimpse of a bloody dog's face pressed close to hers. Fortunately, she had sent me her location beforehand. Jai Fanian told the dog people to line up and enter her gourd. Seeing the tiny gourd contain such a crowd, the image of this girl suddenly grew immense in my heart. The journey ahead seemed less daunting. The new aunt, Lin Ru, insisted on coming with us and refused to enter the gourd. Jai Fanian let her be. The mountain road was winding and rugged, growing colder the further we went. The car stopped at a mountain villa. As soon as we got out, a group of mercenaries emerged from the ceiling, armed with iron rods and cleavers, their faces cold as ice, sending shivers down my spine. Jai Fanian, seeing this, breathed a sigh of relief, even leisurely cracking open a coconut. She pulled out her phone. "Big foot, give me 1 minute. If you don't get here now, I'll smash your dog head." A whining voice came from the phone. "It's not my fault, Grandma. The teleportation talisman got damp and sent me to the wrong place." Jai Fanian impatiently hung up and turned to me. "Niu Pa, if you get beaten to death today, remember not to blame me, okay?" My eyes widened. "Huh, no way, you look so cool," Jai Fanian cackled, giving me a feeling that life and death were unpredictable. "If you don't want to die, get out of here," the leader on the other side boomed. "If we leave, we won't die," I asked curiously. The leader also sneered. "No, you'll still die. We've been paid. Anyone who comes today must leave their lives behind." "What about you guys? You don't have to die. Doesn't everyone who comes here die?" I continued in curious mode. My teacher once taught me to ask if I didn't understand. "Are you messing with me?" the man said, swinging his iron rod, intending to hit me. Jai Fanian pulled me and ran, both sides chasing each other around the large villa courtyard. "This isn't a joke, sister. Is your body weak? You guys should check if you've grown dog hair on your chests. If you have, then don't hit us anymore. Worry about yourselves first. You're all doomed," Jai Fanian said, panting. Her imposing image in my mind had now somewhat faded. The opposing leader slowed his steps, pulled at his collar, looked down, then yelled, "Damn it! The others, hearing this, immediately tore open their shirts to check. Everyone had dog hair growing on their chests, only differing in color. A tough guy pulled out a lighter and set fire to the chest hair. Flames erupted, scorching the hair, but strangely it grew back instantly. Everyone looked at Gifanian with horrified eyes. I giggled. Beautiful, counterattack successful. Gifanian turned around and glared. Don't laugh, you've got it too. I pulled at my collar and looked down, immediately losing my cheer. I'm on your side, so why am I also growing dog hair? I hugged her arm and groaned. You can't just attack indiscriminately like this. I don't have that preference, it's not me. Gifanian patted my shoulder as if comforting me, but I was even more frightened. This has nothing to do with whether you're on my side or not. This is a massive evil formation. Anyone who steps in tonight will turn into a dog. Gifanian explained while drawing strange patterns on the ground. Grandma Jai, I'm here. Just then, a car dropped from the sky into the courtyard. Bigfoot stepped out, grinning. This moldy, damp teleportation talisman really is useless. It teleports me all over the place. So annoying. Gifanian rolled her eyes and snatched something from his hand, spilled incense jars, and several yellow talismans printed with incomprehensible symbols. Bigfoot looked up and smiled hello at everyone. Seeing no one bothered to respond, he pouted and snorted. But clearly, everyone hadn't recovered from the shock of a car dropping from the sky and someone jumping out, dancing and talking. How could they not be terrified? Everyone, be a little more vigilant, Gifanian sternly reminded them. It was then that I noticed the black aura in the courtyard growing denser and denser. Bigfoot said this was malevolent energy. The malevolent energy around the villa was like thick ropes tightly coiled around the exterior of the building. I faintly heard weeping, as if an entire crowd of people were sobbing. Mew Pa, do you trust me? Gifanian looked at me, her eyes complex. I trust you and I still need to save Auntie, I replied firmly, without hesitation. Good jumpin', she pointed to the already drawn pattern which was now fiercely burning. Huh, my face showed doubt. Hurry up, I'm starting to grow dog hair here. Bigfoot bluntly kicked me in and the flames immediately engulfed me. The bodyguards huddled like quails, not daring to utter a sound. Gifanian rushed over and punched Bigfoot several times. Why did you kick her, huh? All right, I'm angry now. But the fire didn't hurt much. Yet my flesh was burning bit by bit. It wasn't until my soul escaped my body that Gifanian took out the gourd, chanted a spell, and slowly gathered all the malevolent energy from the courtyard and the villa's air into it. So she used me as a sacrifice. Truly a ruthless woman. Gifanian shouted, If you want to live, follow me and charge in? The mercenaries, as if having drunk chicken blood, closed their eyes and desperately charged in like madmen. I also floated along. I had to say, being a ghost was quite nice. I could just hover around. As soon as I passed through the main gate, I froze. Which magnificent villa looks like this? Endless rows of dog kennels emitting a strong, foul odor. Everyone stood rooted in astonishment, looking at Gifanian, waiting for instructions. Gifanian frowned and cursed. These mongrels daring to use such a shameless secret technique? She turned to me and smiled. Mew Pa, you might need to sacrifice a little more. But I'm already dead. What kind of sacrifice can I make now? I'm not doing the soul scattering thing. I hugged myself and backed away, shaking my head like a rattled drum. Trust me, I'll guarantee your safety. Gifanian chuckled softly. I was truly terrified. This sister was really something. She kept tormenting only me. Can I go instead? Lin Ru, the new aunt who had been silent, suddenly stood in front of me. The others almost collapsed. They couldn't see that I had turned into a ghost, only staring blankly at Gifanian talking to thin air. Their faces were all filled with panic. Gifanian shook her head. No, it has to be Mew Pa. The karma was caused by the Mew family. It must be a Mew family member who ends it. Looking at Aunt Lin Ru with her dog's head and human body, I remembered the dog people from years ago who snarled, wanting to flay and butcher me, and also my dead Aunt Niu, who still couldn't find peace or reincarnation. The mist before my eyes grew denser and denser. My heart was filled with too many doubts. But ultimately, someone had to resolve this. If it absolutely had to be me, then so be it. Gifanian patted my shoulder and said, Don't worry, Mew Pa, to be honest. Her confident expression only made me more uneasy. After whispering a few words, I followed her instructions and glided into a dark tunnel that grew deeper and deeper. The deeper I went, the more bones were piled on the ground. When I was little, my family often stewed dog meat. The aroma was delicious, and my father and youngest uncle would sit around the fire, eating their fill. But every time I saw the bloody meat, I would inexplicably shudder and have the same nightmare every night. Countless bloody chunks of meat crawling all over me, crying and screaming that they were in immense pain. The bones on the ground eerily resembled the dog bones my father and uncle would spit out when eating meat. Why was this scene so similar? So, were these mountains of bones all dog bones? Continuing forward felt like entering an abandoned mine. On the ground lay scattered coffins the size of wash basins. My eyes lit up. I moved forward to search. When I saw the green coffin emitting a fluorescent glow, I rejoiced, intending to bury the dragon-shaped bronze seal Gifanian had given me into the ground. "Pa, you're here." My cousin's voice suddenly startled me. She stood in a dark corner, wearing a red dress, making me jump. "Sister, are you okay?" Why wouldn't I be? "Didn't you say you came to save me?" Her calm expression made me start to doubt myself. Or was it because I had turned into a ghost that my memories were getting confused? "It's too dark and scary here. Let's get out quickly." As she spoke, my cousin reached out to grab my hand and pull me away, but her eyes darted nervously, seemingly very afraid of the green coffin. I was dead, yet my cousin not only saw me but could also grab my wrist. I didn't know if she was a ghost or something else. "Sister, where's your body? Don't you remember? Let me help you cremate it." Seeing her bewildered expression, I secretly put my hand into my chest and tightly gripped the bottle of dragon phoenix urine. "Ha, you already know I'm not your cousin, right? Then who are you?" The voice of the person in front of me was both male and female. Their fingers tightened around me. "I am the immortal worshipped by generations of the Niu family. Is today's sacrifice a human?" He bared his teeth and grinned, saliva flowing 3 feet long. "A bit creepy. Let me see what kind of demon you really are." I unexpectedly splashed the dragon phoenix urine on him. Sizzle! In an instant, white smoke billowed from his entire body. He fell to the ground, screaming miserably. I quickly glided to the green coffin and poured the remaining dragon phoenix urine from the bottle onto it. There was only a little left in the bottle. I wondered if its effectiveness would be reduced. As I was thinking, the ground beneath my feet shook violently. "Mew-pa, keep pouring." Gifanian's voice echoed from afar. I was stunned. "It's all gone," she growled. "Damn it!" The surrounding space warped and distorted, the scenery constantly changing. Green flames danced, about to burn me. Gifanian made hand gestures and chanted spells, then grabbed me by the collar and flew out. From above, the villa looked like a person vomiting, spewing everything inside. Furniture and beds flew everywhere. Gifanian widened her eyes. "Look at the mess you've made." I shrank my neck, not daring to utter a sound. When the villa completely stabilized, Gifanian pulled me back inside. The others, including Bigfoot, were still standing by the door as if nothing had happened. But the rows of kennels inside the villa had vanished, returning to its original magnificent and opulent appearance. I walked around. The mountains of bones had also disappeared without a trace. I found the monster I had drenched with dragon phoenix urine in a room upstairs. It lay on the ground, its flesh torn. Its hairy tail gently swept the floor, gasping for breath. "Is it a dog too?" "Yes, but not entirely. It was human first, then a ghost, then transformed into this monster that's neither human nor ghost nor dog." Gifanian cautiously observed her surroundings, answering me distractedly. Aunt Lin Ru stood beside me, her eyes filled with murderous intent, staring at the monster on the ground. The dog hair on her body grew longer and longer, and her nails became hard and sharp. "Auntie," I hugged her arm, anxiously trying to bring her back to reality. Only when I saw her eyes regain their clarity did I breathe a sigh of relief. Gifanian glanced at me with an approving look. We searched the entire villa but still couldn't find my cousin. The monster on the ground let out a cackling laugh. Looking at its swollen belly, I suddenly had a bad feeling. Seeing my face turn pale, Gifanian followed my gaze, placed her hand on the monster's belly, and closed her eyes with a serious expression. "So what if you found her? She offered herself as a sacrifice. Her soul and body both belong to me." Bigfoot, without hesitation, grabbed a knife, intending to cut open its belly. Gifanian winced and stopped him. "Why are you doing such disgusting things today?" As she spoke, she placed a golden talisman on the monster's belly. Immediately, it began to vomit. I watched in amazement as it regurgitated my cousin, who weighed over 100 pounds. Strangely, my cousin was still alive. From the pile of foul-smelling, disgusting waste, she slowly regained consciousness. "Pa, you finally came?" she cried, and the mucus on her face flowed into her mouth, making my ghostly body tremble. "Tell the truth." "If you don't, I'll put you back in there," Gifanian said coldly. My cousin glanced at the monster's belly, oozing with filthy organs, her eyes trembling uncontrollably. It was Zai Zini. He sought me out and said he liked me. He's a top celebrity, always my idol. He suddenly appeared before me and said he liked me. Any fan in the world who experienced that would surely not be able to resist. Zai Zini. Aunt Lin Ru and I looked at each other, immediately understanding who my cousin was talking about. My cousin was lost in the happiness of the past. He was so gentle with me, he captivated me in every way. But one evening, he cried in my arms, recounting his secret, word for word, a secret no one knew. That's when I learned that the man I loved most had once been with asterisk or asterisk. My cousin pointed a hateful finger at Aunt Lin Ru. My mouth dropped open, then snapped shut. How could I explain this? Get to the important part. Jifanian, already impatient, snapped at my cousin. I didn't want my father and uncle to die. I just wanted her asterisk to die quietly. But just then, I witnessed that humiliating scene. It was him. He said, as long as I sacrifice the souls of my father and uncle, Zai Zini will love only me for the rest of his life. My cousin pointed at the monster on the ground, backing away several steps in terror. That night, my cousin used the medicine given by the monster to subdue Lin Ru, which is why the new aunt had no memory of what happened that night. And my cousin, for a love originally shrouded in lies, for a man like that, had sacrificed her own father and paternal uncle to this monster. My father, to escape death, wanted to drag both my mother and me down as substitutes. Aunt Lin Ru was originally the dog Aunt Niu had raised. To save it from being butchered, Aunt Niu had been beaten countless times, almost choked to death by youngest uncle. Perhaps others only thought it was an ordinary dog, but for Aunt Niu, it was the only thing she could wholeheartedly protect. She couldn't protect herself, but she wanted to keep the black dog that had been with her for so many years. Our entire Miu family clan lived off Yan Yang pills like leeches. But the true secret that made Yan Yang pills effective was decades of sacrificing live dogs to the family guardian deity. My father and youngest uncle, and even my deceased grandfather, had killed countless dogs. The secret to successful live dog sacrifice lay in the harmonious blending of human and dog souls. A human head on a dog's body, or a dog's head on a human's body, that was the most favored offering of the family guardian deity. Auntie was the same. My grandmother was also the same in the past. Their souls were deeply intertwined with dog souls. Aunt Lin Ru witnessed Aunt Niu's death with her own eyes and saw how cold and heartless Aunt Niu's daughter and husband were. After Aunt Niu died, because her soul was incomplete, and because of the karmic ties entangled with too many dog people, her soul, cursed by resentment, could not reincarnate. Aunt Lin Ru, with the help of the other dog people, completed an excruciatingly painful coming-of-age ritual. She wanted to avenge Aunt Niu and also cleanse the resentment of the dog people whose souls were bound to hers. According to our original plan, for my father and youngest uncle to atone for their sins and for the resentment to be cleared, then Aunt Niu and my deceased grandmother could both reincarnate peacefully. That's right, my grandmother passed away long ago, yet still couldn't find peace. After I saw ghosts, I realized she had always been by my side, and what they called the family guardian deity was just the monster now gasping on the ground. It was merely a foolish being who dreamed of becoming an immortal, failed in its cultivation, died harboring resentment, refused to reincarnate, and relied on this lingering obsession to commit evil, causing the tragic deaths of many innocent people and dog souls. This sin, you won't be able to atone for it in 10,000 years. Jifanian said angrily, but her eyes were filled with sorrow. Now you even dare to target humans, wanting to consume living souls? Get out. Bigfoot kicked the monster hard. The monster was sucked into the gourd, and I was pulled in too. There I saw countless dog people surrounding the monster, its screams echoing throughout the gourd. One by one, they lined up orderly to tear apart the monster's soul. The more the monster was torn apart, the thinner the malevolent energy on the dog people became. Aunt Lin Ru transformed back into the shape of a small dog as she was in life, nestling by Aunt Niu's feet. My grandmother was there too. They told me to study hard and leave this town someday, never to return. Watching them disappear into the warm golden light, my heart was filled with a pang of sadness. Why didn't you wait for me to come with you? In the next life, we'll still be a complete family. I'm dead too, you know. Papa, wake up, you'll be late for school, today is Friday. Vaguely hearing my mother's voice from behind me, I startlingly turned my head and woke up in my bed. My mother stood anxiously by the bed, the faint smell of fried eggs in the room. I quickly grabbed my phone to check the time. That long, drawn-out period, had I only slept for a few hours? Was it all just a dream? If it was a dream, it was terrifying. On the way to school, I felt itchy and sore all over, an indescribably uncomfortable feeling. In class, during the first English lesson, I suddenly felt my mind become incredibly clear. In math class, the feeling of becoming smarter was even more pronounced. I even realized there was a mistake in the teacher's solution. This feeling, as if blessed by a divine spirit, made me ecstatically happy. When I calmed down, I just wanted to seize every minute and second to study as much as possible. That evening, after school, as if guided by a ghost, I hailed a taxi straight to Jifanian's shop. I didn't believe what happened last night was a dream. I had clearly died. Jifanian was still chewing melon seeds, her face looking drowsy. "Mew-pa, you're here. What exactly happened to me? Isn't it great? Is something wrong?" The young woman smiled mischievously. I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "Mew-pa, I wish you a bright future, a long life, and a pocket full of money." "Thanks," I replied curtly. Many years later, I learned that all of Jifanian's wishes came true. I passed the university entrance exams and got into a top university, later even getting a deferred degree. After graduating, I started my own business, making nearly 10 million in profit the first year. Later, I fell in love, married, and had children. Everything went smoothly, earning me the title of a life winner. Every step I took was brilliant and bright. I only heard from my mother later that my cousin went mad, deceived by a celebrity. She wandered the streets and markets, apparently disfigured from being bitten by stray dogs. After hearing this, I made no comment. All my emotions transformed into a bittersweet smile. The popular celebrity Zai Zini had approached my cousin back, then only to extract the secret of Yan Yang pills. My cousin revealed everything she knew. Zai Zini immediately grew greedy, thinking that if he could grasp the formula for Yan Yang pills, he could use it to exploit resources in the entertainment industry, which, after all, needed Yan Yang pills in endless quantities. Unexpectedly, he was immediately swallowed by the monster, the family guardian deity. It was dissatisfied with only eating dog people and even more resentful that my father and others' offerings grew increasingly scarce. It wanted to completely transform into a human, appear before the world, harm others, harm itself, and then self-destruct. I once repaid Jifanian with a large sum of money. She refused to accept a single cent, only saying, "Mew-pa, use this money to help those who truly need help." "Where did my father and youngest uncle go back then?" I asked curiously. "Those whom hell won't take are all on Ghost Realm Mountain." "Where is that?" "A place even worse than hell. Your father, your youngest uncle, and even your grandfather are all there." Jifanian's face showed sadness, her eyes full of stories and sorrow. "Mew-pa, never do evil." "Yes, I have guarded Ghost Realm Mountain for 1,000 years. Those who do evil never come to a good end." My phone rang. I looked up. "What did you just say?" She smiled faintly. "Nothing. Treat me to dinner. It's raining. It's perfect for hot pot."